So Ipsos just released a new poll. The poll shows that about 80% of South Africans are unhappy with the direction that the country is taking. Roughly 20% say that they think the country is moving in the right direction. I don't know what that 20% was smoking. This was an online poll, so it's very possible that they had just finished the hit. They were actually sitting there with the munchies and they rate the question wrong. They thought that they were asking whether or not they know the direction to the nearest McDonald's or KFC, and they were like, yeah, they know exactly what direction I'm going. Because anyone that argues that the country is going in the right direction isn't paying attention. We're losing thousands of jobs. Our government is busy making deals with a terrorist regime called Iran, literally pledging military alliances with this regime. Our government is doing everything in its power to antagonize our second largest trading partner. And if you actually include dollar dominance and dollar reliance, it is by far our largest trading partner because we buy and sell everything to everywhere else in the world in dollars, which, is an export from America, but it's not tracked under American exports because every country in the world buys and sells in dollars. But if you include that, they're by far and large. The ANC is continuously making economic decisions without the GNU. I mean, the GNU, and the GNU is largely useless. It has not achieved anything. What has gotten better under the GNU? That would be my main question. Anyone that is a proponent of the GNU, that thinks the GNU has saved us, all I constantly hear from people is, well, the GNU kept the EFF out. It's like, yeah, to what end? Like, the ANC is doing all of the stuff we were afraid the EFF was going to do anyway. The Bala Bala Act, yeah, they got that through. The Land Expropriation Act without compensation, yeah, they got that through too. The ANC is unstoppable in everything that they're trying to do. And the one time that the DA was able to stop the ANC was with the VAT increase, and that was done through the courts, which is stuff the ANC has been stopped before through the courts by the DA when the DA wasn't in the GNU. So this whole argument that, it's because of we need to keep the EFF and the MK out, I don't buy that. I don't see, because that only works if the current government is doing things that the EFF and the MK wouldn't be doing. But the current government is doing, because the ANC, when they set up the GNU, and this is, I think, probably my biggest gripe with how the GNU was set up, the DA came into the GNU with more than enough votes. But remember, without the DA, there would be no GNU. It cannot survive, because even if you remove the DA and you put all of the smaller parties into the mix, they don't get to 50%. They fall below that. They need the DA, right? Otherwise, they have to go with the EFF. Why didn't the ANC go with the EFF? Because the EFF will tear the ANC apart. The ANC is well aware of this. This is why the DA always had a much stronger negotiating position. There's a reason why Cyril Ramaphosa will not go with the EFF. He knows that there is a faction inside the ANC that would love to be part of the EFF. And he understands that should the EFF go into coalition with the ANC, that faction will suddenly become a hell of a lot stronger and they will overpower the other factions, and the ANC will just become the EFF. They understand this. Frans Cronje even made this point a few years ago when he said the ANC themselves know the EFF will tear them apart. So this whole argument that, and from this, in this strengthened position, the DA allowed the ANC to take control of all of the major cabinet positions. The DA was given agriculture, internal affairs, or home affairs rather, and some other unnecessary position. But in terms of DIRCO, that's ANC. In terms of trade and industry, ANC. In terms of employment, ANC. In terms of international relations, well, that is DIRCO, ANC. So in all of the positions that actually make pertinent and important decisions for the economy, the ANC has full control, and they exercise that full control. They don't know the GNU in any of those decisions. They just do whatever they want. So when you look at this and you go 20% think it's going in the right direction, what the hell are they talking about? The other problem that I have with this poll is 80% think the country is on the wrong track. Well, that does not speak to what track they think the country should be on, because you could have 80%, or of that 80%, 60% could think that the country should actually be more communist than socialist. What it does give, and what is a good indication here, is that 80% of South Africans are unhappy with the current state of South Africa. I believe the 20% that you're seeing there are most likely people who have managed to thus far keep themselves insulated from the state. So whatever the state does doesn't really affect them too much, and therefore they couldn't care less. They're just living their lives. And so they think the GNU is great because they like sport, and Gator McKenzie is doing a pretty good job there. They like farming, and they see John Steenhuisen is taking pictures with farmers every week, and that's great, right? The more important thing here is when they asked, I think different political parties should also work together on the local government municipality level. So GNU, but on the global level. And here you find that 65% of DA supporters think this is a good idea. 57% of Action SA voters think that this is a good idea. 56% of ANC voters think that this is a good idea. It really only starts to fall once you get to like the more extreme parts. So I would say, when I say extreme parts, what I mean to say is EFF, MK, extreme left. FF plus, right wing, right? They're not extreme right wing, but they are right wing. The center parties clearly want the majority, want this more GNU working together thing, and the more extreme, or the parties that are more visibly on one side or the other, less so, but even still very close to 50%, right? So very close to 50% of their members say, yeah, we should probably have a little bit more cooperation between the different parties. There is a fundamental question that we need to ask here, and Daily Maverick does ask this. How is it possible when 80% of the public thinks that the country is going in the wrong direction, that so many people think that we should have this that isn't working on a local level? And I think the answer to that is we've seen it work better at local level. While it is true that coalitions don't always work well on the local level, there are a lot of coalition governments that work relatively well, right? And it's in that, I think, that most people go, at local level, we think the GNU works reasonably well. And the reason for, I think, the GNU, or it wouldn't really be called Government of National Unity, it would be more Government of Provincial Unity, so GPU, right? I think where most people think a GPU works is because it creates competition. There's an incentive for these different parties to deliver services and to one-up each other on the deliverance of those services, because none of them have a full-blown majority, and so the only people that can benefit from it is the people. This, of course, doesn't work in the current system where the ANC has way too much power. When asked about the specific provinces and how people feel about the performance of the local government in these provinces, it's actually abysmal when you look at these results. In Mpumalanga, only 15% of people think that they're doing a very good job. 50% think that's positive, right? It's okay, which is actually astounding, but never mind. Limpopo, 6% very well, 32% not that great. All of these provinces are terrible. It only gets sort of good, right, when you get to the Western Cape and you realize 18% in the Western Cape thinks that the DA is doing a very good job, and 59% think, yeah, it's pretty positive. Not necessarily the best job, but it's at least decently positive. So of all of our countries, of all of our provinces, the only province that is actually delivering in a majority satisfaction state would be the Western Cape. Every other province is completely failing at delivering a decent experience in terms of local government performance. One of the big problems, of course, that the Western Cape will have and will continue to have is that they don't have control over the money of their province. And so they're always going to run into budget constraints because they have to get budget from the government, and the government does not fund the states correctly. Vast majority, I think it's something like more than 90% of the money that the Western Cape contributes to the national budget never comes back, right? So that's just given to the national government, and they give a fraction of that back to the province to actually operate. But that's where we are. I needed to share this poll with you guys because there's a number of things to say about it, and I think I've said it well. But let me know in the comment section down below how you guys feel. Are you part of the 80% that thinks we're not going in the right direction, or the 20% that thinks, nah, there's some positive signs here? I'd love to read your thoughts. As always, if you like what I do and you think more people should have access to the content that I make, please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment because it truly helps. And then big shout out to all of the members of this channel, as well as the patrons. To become a patron, hit the link in the description down below, or just hit the join button right below this video. Your support truly helps. As always, ladies and gentlemen, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.